And major stock markets in Asia closed mixed today as investors awaited the start of U.S.-China trade talks later in the day stateside. Now, the mainland Chinese market slipped back into negative territory after an earlier recovery to end their trading day lower. The Shanghai Composite slipped about 0.72%, while the Shenzhen Composite also declined 1.279%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index was higher by about 0.1% as of its final hour of trading. Japan's Nikkei 225 slipped 0.52%, while the Topix fell 0.41%. South Korea's Kospi, on the other hand, advanced 1.05%. Australia's ASX 200 gained 0.21% as the materials sub-index rose 2.14%. And U.S. stock index futures rose slightly in the morning as investors await new guidance from the Federal Reserve and keep an eye on the outcome of high-level trade talks between the U.S. and China. At about 3:30 a.m. Eastern Time, Dow futures were up 28 points, indicating a slightly higher open. S&P and Nasdaq futures pointed to a slightly higher open too. Market focus is largely attuned to global trade developments, with Chinese Vice Premier Liu He arriving in Washington to meet U.S. officials. Investors are also looking to the outcome of the Federal Reserve's rate review later in the session. Amid heightened expectations, policymakers at the U.S. Central Bank will reinforce their dovish stance given signs of an economic slowdown. On the data front, an ADP employment report is due at 8:15 a.m. Eastern Time, and a pending home sales index is due to be reported at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And here on the African continent, Egypt plans to issue foreign currency bonds in early 2019 to raise $3 billion to $7 billion. The offering is expected to take place in February or March. The Finance Ministry had earlier noted that the country plans to issue a number of dollar-denominated and euro-denominated bonds by the end of this fiscal year in June. Another offering of green bonds as well as international bonds in an unspecified Asian currency will be offered after that. JP Morgan, HSBC and Citigroup will manage the dollar-denominated issue, while PNB Paribas, Natixis, Alex Bank and Standard Chartered will manage the euro-denominated issue. Egypt raised 2 billion euros from its Eurobond sale in April last year. Meanwhile, Egypt has opened a new international airport on the outskirts of the capital for an initial trial period in a bid to help boost tourism. The airport was built to service 6 governorates and decrease the load of Cairo International Airports.
The Sphinx International Airport, located near the Giza Pyramid and the new Grand Egyptian Museum, is expected to operate 30 flights by early February during its trial run. The $17 million project comes as part of the Tourism Ministry's plan to improve accessibility to historical sites from resort areas on the Red Sea, like Sharm el-Sheikh and Hurghada. It will fully open in 2020.
We will have made a name for ourselves by the year 2020. We should coincide with the opening of the Grand Egyptian Museum and the development around the pyramids area. To tell you the truth, it's the second option to go to Cairo. We were going to Cairo actually, and there was no flight during the day. So we took this flight here, and now we're going to take a taxi to Cairo. So that was the main reason why we took it, and it's a good option that there is another airport.
The bombing of a Russian airliner shortly after it took off from Sharm el-Sheikh in 2015 hit tourism numbers hard, continuing a downward trend that started with the years of turmoil following the Arab Spring protest of 2011.
The airport will help boost the one-day tourism. The tourist agencies will be able to create touristic programs near the pyramids and then to Sharm el-Sheikh, Al-Amin, Hurghada. Today is an important day and it is a strong start. The tourism sector, thank God, is recovering.
Tourism revenues had begun to rebound, jumping 77% year-on-year in the first half of 2018 to $4.8 billion before a deadly attack on a bus in December killed 3 Vietnamese tourists and the Egyptian guide. The bus attack was the first deadly attack against foreign tourists in Egypt for over a year.
The South African government will soon debate whether to split up state power firm Eskom to make it financially viable. Eskom is vital to the health of Africa's most industrialized economy as it supplies more than 90% of its power, but it is drowning in debt after a decade of steep financial decline. Experts hired by President Cyril Ramaphosa to help revive the ailing company are proposing splitting it up into 3 state-owned entities responsible for power generation, distribution and transmission. Ramaphosa is due to meet the experts this week, and Eskom's fate will also be debated at a cabinet meeting starting today. Meanwhile, South Africa's state-owned pension fund, Public Investment Corporation, says a whistleblower has made new corruption allegations against 2 of its board members and the acting chief executive. The PIC, which has nearly 2 trillion rand of civil servants' pension under its custody and is Africa's biggest pension fund, said it would immediately conduct a forensic investigation into the allegation. And staying in South Africa, lender Absa plans to appoint an external candidate as its new CEO following the sudden departure of its boss of 10 years, Maria Ramos, with analysts and investors hoping they will breathe new life into the lagging bank. Absa's Tuesday announcement that Ramos, one of the global banking's new female CEOs, would retire at the end of February, took some analysts and investors by surprise and sent the bank's shares up by 4%. Absa, South Africa's 3rd biggest lender and a prominent brand across Southern and Eastern Africa, said Ramos will be replaced in the interim by Rene van Wyk, a non-executive director on its board.
Been a great CEO. I mean, I think her history in being involved in government, like I say, and the private sector has stood the test of time. I'm interested to know where she's going now, okay, and whether she's going back into government. But I mean, I don't want to put words into mouths there. I hope that presages that she is, because one of the things that we are really lacking, and in terms of what you mentioned earlier about implementation.
She's really represented, and particularly women leaders, very well. Absa has just gone on to bigger and bigger heights. She's seen many challenges at Absa as well, in terms of the Barclays-Absa relationship, and she always came out very well out of it.
After the break, we'll cross over to the Nigerian equities market for today's update. Do stay with us.